Hey, friends. Welcome to the Angelic Wisdom Channel. I am your host, Anna McKessie, and we're here today to talk about the new feminist. But first, before I get into it, I wanted to just provide a little bit of background about who I am. If you're new to the channel, which I'm sure some of you are because it's a pretty new channel. So I am a channel myself for the angelic realm as well as the Galactic Federation and Earth Alliance. And I'll explain what that is. But first, a little bit of background about me. I was a very intuitive kid, a psychic and a medium. I could see my little brother who had passed away when he was just 2 years old. And so that is kind of what led me on my journey towards, well, actually, that's not really what led me on my journey. The thing that happened was that I was psychic and intuitive and a medium as a child, but then I, let all of that fall away because it just, you grow out of it as most kids do. And then it was only when I had my divorce, a high conflict divorce, that I was, I guess, activated to have all of those gifts come back online. And I started my spiritual awakening process, which all of us are going to be going through at different stages. And, it can be a long process, but that's a video for another day. Um, so in any event, as a result of that, I started not only to communicate with ancestors who had passed away and those in the astral realm, but also with the angelic realm, especially archangels Michael and archangel Gabriel. And then that also evolved further to galactic communication with the Galactic Federation, which is now actually known as the Galactic Alliance. And that's an alliance of extraterrestrials from all different parts of the multiverse, not even just our local universe, but other galaxies and universes. Whereas the Earth Alliance is more local to our universe and is comprised of humans as well as non humans, very much focused on Earth's ascension, which is what we're going through right now, our ascension from 3D into 5D. And so they're working on that effort and assisting. And so the primary reason for creating my content is to help awaken people to what's happening because it can be a little bit jarring if you don't know if you don't understand what's happening. And so I'm hoping that by putting out content that resonates, people will start waking up to their true nature and to start remembering who they really are. A lot of us have fallen asleep and we forgot our true origins and what we're here to do. And I'm hoping that with creating this kind of content, it'll help those that are still sleeping to wake up and remember who they really are. Because a lot of us were sort of under some sort of amnesia. And so that's a primary reason for the content. But today, the topic is the new feminist. And this has to do with, well, I mean, feminism is a pretty hot topic, right? If it can be very activating and not necessarily a good way. It's a very heavy word that carries a lot of connotations. Feminism or feminist, and people can define it in different ways. And let me first start by saying, before I share what has been shared with me regarding this, that with anything that I provide on this channel, it's simply to, I guess, motivate maybe or instigate you to rethink your values or your belief system. And to the extent that it doesn't resonate with you, you can just ignore it, right? Like I don't want to I'm not going to force anything on anybody. And so, I always say take what resonates and leave the rest, right? Because we're all sovereign beings. We all have our own divine guidance. We all have our own connection to source energy, to the angels, to all the same communication channels that I'm communicating on. And we might, have our own messages that we're getting. Hopefully, that's my hope. That's what I'd like to see happen. So to the extent that something doesn't resonate, please just disregard it. But try to keep an open mind if you would, and see how it feels in your body. When you hear things from me or other spiritual teachers and light workers, you have to really use your discernment and take the pause and figure out whether it resonates in your physical body or whether it feels like a no, and that's really important. What is the difference between a yes or a no? And maybe I should do a video on that actually, because that is going to be extremely important as we continue with the ascension process and we move through 2025. There's a lot of changes coming, and there's going to be a lot of resistance to the changes. There's a negative element. We live in a dualistic realm where there's good and bad, or light and dark, good and evil, and there's going to be a backlash to what's happening with the light workers and with the fact that we're ascending and Earth's moving into a higher dimension, a higher frequency. There are some who don't want to see that happen, and who are creating um, their own stories, their own version of events. I mean, that's another whole topic. But in any event, it's just going to become really, really important for us to be using our discernment. So, start now. Start today as you're listening to this. If this doesn't resonate with you, that's totally fine. You make your own conscious decision to either accept what I'm saying is truth or just disregard and say, that doesn't resonate for me. Really, really, really super important as we move forward. So, but in any event, I did want to share some of what was communicated to me regarding the new feminist, which is simply another way of viewing what feminism really means. And this is what I've been told, that as we move forward with our ascension, and starting now in 2025, we're going to see the rise of the divine feminine, and we're going to see a change around what that means. Okay, so up until now, unfortunately, the patriarchy has really, as we all know, has been running the show, right, for millennia. In most societies, I can't think of a society where that hasn't been the case, and here in the U.S. And so, one of the aspects of that is to even take over the term feminism or femininity or feminist and turn it into something masculine, right? So when you think about it, most of the feminists that we know, I could just speak for myself here in the US, really are working from their masculine energy, and they're calling it feminism. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, that's okay. I mean, we've all been sort of programmed to believe that that's what feminism is. And that's what it is. It's just a program. But that's why I'm challenging you to rethink your belief system around this and consider this alternative, which is that a feminist is someone who's actually sitting in her divine feminine power and is not afraid to be feminine in the traditional sense, is not afraid to really lean into her femininity without seeing it as something that's negative or weak in any way, shape, or form. Rather, she's a feminist who, again, leans in and really accepts and welcomes and embraces, that's the word I'm looking for, embraces, okay, her intuitive aspect, her intuition, her ability to derive information from sources like me, from the divine realms, from the galactics, from our spirit guides, from places that are not here in the physical and that don't necessarily that we can't necessarily prove with evidence, but that is a really strong knowing, okay? And the history behind this is that for thousands of years, women have had this innate intuitive sense. Not that men don't either, but it's very strong among the feminine expression, among the feminines that are human. Okay, so and the reason is that our ancestors were able to carry the ancient wisdom of their forefathers and foremothers and grandmothers or whoever, and women were really the ones that held on to that wisdom and passed it along, not just in storytelling or that kind of thing, but even through their DNA. Okay, so women are the ones that carry the sacred wisdom, which is why, if you look at history, women were the leaders, or the leaders of communities, the leaders in tribes, because the women were the ones who carried the sacred knowledge, the sacred wisdom. And the masculines really respected that and honored that, and were happy to have women be the leaders. We're returning to that time, guys, okay? We're returning to that sacred feminine who holds the divine wisdom, the ancient wisdom, in her DNA, in her memories, and is passing that along and is able to guide communities, guide groups, guide families, guide organizations, use that as a leadership skill because she's deeply, deeply connected to her intuitive knowing and to the sacred knowing that is there and is available for all of us, Okay, she's connected to the unified field, the consciousness, the collective consciousness that knows all. Okay, so God, source, creator, essentially. So because of that, women are really really effective leaders if they're really leaning into this divine feminine wisdom that I'm talking about, and are not trying to only work out of their masculine energy. Okay, and maybe that's something I should have mentioned at the start. We all have both energies, masculine and feminine. Okay, so I'll use myself. I, as a woman, identify as a woman. I am biologically a woman. I have masculine energy just as much as I have feminine energy. Okay, and the same for a male who is either biologically or identifies as a male, has both masculine and feminine energies. That's the human aspect of all of us here on earth. We have both energies. Now, some people are more masculine, some people are more feminine, and all of that is completely natural and completely fine and beautiful. And it's just a matter of balancing those out and really leaning into where our talents are, our innate talents. So there's nothing wrong, obviously, with a woman using her masculine energy or a man using his feminine energy. We want to use both. We want to use both energies. It's super, super important that we do and that we balance them. But that doesn't mean that we can't get a lot out of really leaning into our feminine energy as women and as feminists. It doesn't have to be a masculine endeavor. It actually is much more beneficial if we're actually really leaning into the feminine aspect. Like I said, the aspect of us that knows things, that has that wisdom, that has connection to the divine, to the other realms, that really gets a lot of knowledge from the spirit guides, the angels, the galactics, and who knows things intuitively. And so that's what's been lost, and that's what's going to be coming back. Okay, this is what we're going to start to see, a return to that type of feminism, where it's okay to allow a masculine to take the lead on execution, for example. So say we have a couple, a masculine and a feminine, a man and a woman, we'll use that as our example in this case. And the woman can lead the masculine with her intuitive knowledge and take the lead because she's guiding the couple, and the masculine can follow her and will be really honoring that aspect of her, but then allowing him to execute on what it is that she's leading them to. The woman doesn't always have to execute. She doesn't have to do both, right? Like women have put so much pressure on ourselves for so long to do both aspects, to really be in both energies equally. And that leads to burnout, right? We've seen that. It's okay to allow the masculine to take the helm on executing on what it is that you're leading the couple or the family or whatever it is, or the organization to. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing disempowering in that. I mean, a woman could also be in her masculine and execute and have the masculine more in his feminine. There's nothing wrong with that either. But the point I'm trying to make is that what's been lost is that honoring of the divine feminine and her femininity, her intuitive guidance, and her willingness to allow a masculine to lead when it comes to execution. That there's nothing wrong with that, and we've lost that. We've lost that through time, and it's really something that's important, and that we'll start coming back, and we'll start to see this rise of a new feminist, okay, who's not afraid of embracing that and won't see that as something that's going to make her less or disempower her, okay. And we have to remember that it was the patriarchy that led us here. It was the patriarchy that wanted everything to be in masculine energy. The masculine energy took over, including what it meant to be feminist, right? So making even the feminist a masculine. So, it's been so distorted. While we might look at it, in the past, we've looked at it as, okay, we have to be really strong like a man and be in our masculine energy. That was really distorted, okay? That wasn't the original intention. This wasn't how it was supposed to be, okay? But again, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just simply that we lost something along the way, and it's time to really dial back and go back to how it was originally and how it was always intended to be. And I think what we'll see is a better balance not only in couple situations, but collectively throughout the world, we'll see more of a balancing of those energies and more harmony and more collaboration. And all of that will work a lot better when we're not fighting each other. When the masculine and the feminine are cohesive, they're collaborating, they're working together, and they're not at each other's throats. Like it's actually going to work much better that way. Now, some might say that this sounds like utopia and it doesn't seem possible, and there's too many, examples of where it has gone horribly wrong, and there's too much bad energy and bad karma, history. But we have to really force ourselves to not be living in the past and to really recognize that we're in a time of change, tremendous change. There's so much changing. The energy is really, really shifting very dramatically, unlike we've ever seen, ever. Okay, this is historic, this is biblical. This was all prophecy. This is so different than anything we've ever experienced before. So we have to be willing to embrace the change and not be stuck in what's ever happened in the past. We have to let that go, and forgive. Honestly, we have to forgive all the atrocities. There have been many towards women, many, and that might seem like a tall order, and I get that, especially if you're someone who's been the victim of it, in whatever way that looks. It could be sexual, it could be physical, it could be psychological. I mean, that's another whole topic, and believe me, I get that more than most people would know. But that doesn't mean that we can't move forward and understand that we're coming to a different energy. It's a different world, and we're creating a new earth with new energy. And we should really embrace that and understand the power behind that. I mean, that's what I'm really trying to emphasize here is the power behind leaning in to this strong divine feminine energy that's really going to change the world, and that's really going to help the collective, and that's really going to help the relationships between men and women, and working together in collaboration. It's really going to be monumental, legendary. Really, it's that powerful. So that is the message I wanted to express for today. I know that many people are going to see this as utopia, and that's perfectly fine. And I understand it. I do. I really do deeply understand that. But we have to remember that we're going into areas and realms where we've never been before. I mean, the fact that we're even, recognizing that we're members of a galactic civilization, that is a tall order. That's a lot to take in too. All the UFO sightings are for a reason. It's to open our eyes. It's to help with this awakening process that I talked about when I first started this video. All of that is to awaken us to what's really true, what's really real, that we've been either missing or we forgot. So again, we're opening up to a whole new world, and there's many people that are here to help us and to lead us in that regard. Some of them, like the Galactics, are doing it from a distance because they recognize that there's still a lot of fear around the concept of extraterrestrial life and all that. But then there's some of us like myself who have been activated and who have been prompted or called to share this kind of content to try to help the collective. So anyway, take what you think resonates, leave what doesn't. And if you're interested in this type of content, it's a really, really exciting time, and I'm looking forward to making more of it and sharing more of the messages and the divine downloads and trying to help with this ascension process and make it as smooth and easy as possible. So God bless all of you and have a wonderful day.